Alright guys, so this is your video on reflections. So this one's reflections. Remember, reflections are flips. F-L-I-P-S. So these are going where we flip these things. So what you're going to do is we're going to take a few notes with us. It'll be the front and the back. Then you're going to have some homework practice that we will check together. And then you'll have a couple of IXLs which will be given to you, and you find them on the Moodle page, or they'll also be on the board as well for you that you can be able to do. So just real quick, what is a reflection? A reflection is a flip, or flips a figure over a line of reflection. So you're going to have a line, or they're going to tell you where we're going to have this thing flip over. So it's called a line of reflection. In order to be able to create a mirror image, or in this case just the image. So we're going to take the pre-image and we're going to flip it over a line of reflection, and that line of reflection will be given to you. It'll tell you where it's at. It's best if you draw it in, and then we're going to be able to flip it over, and it's going to look like a mirror image, but it's going to be kind of backwards. It's going to be flipped. So each reflected point of the figure should be the same distance from the line of reflection. So each point of the figure should be the same distance. So if you have one point that is, say like this one, A is 5 units away from your line of reflection. Say this is 5 units away. When you flip it over, A prime, the image should also be 5 units away. So they're going to be the same distance away from the line of reflection. So that way you have an exact mirror image. Okay? So that's the big thing to remember, that the distance from these points have to be the same from the line of reflection. So let's take a look at here's two examples here that you have two smiley face emojis. Both of these have different lines of reflection, and you can see that this one right here is being flipped over this line right here. This is called your x-axis. That is your line of reflection, and you can see that this point here down at the bottom, this tongue, is maybe 1 unit away from the line of reflection, and this point of the tongue, which is the same thing, is the same spot. It's 1 unit away. The top of the head may be 5 units away, and the bottom of the head here is also 5 units away from our line of reflection, which is the x-axis. So they are the same distance away, these points, from the line of reflection. And it makes a mirror image here in this case of the sticking the tongue out emoji. The line of reflection here on the second one is not the x-axis, because if it was, it would be flipped over like this. It's going to be the y-axis is your line of reflection here. So this is your line of reflection, and you can see that this eyeball is exactly the same distance from the line of reflection as this eyeball is. So maybe this was 3 units away. This has to be 3 units away. This eyeball here may be 6 units away. So this has to be 6 units away from the line of reflection. That way it becomes a mirror image in that case. So that's the big thing you got to remember, that each point of the image and the pre-image is exactly the same distance from the lines of reflection that have been given to you. Okay? So the first couple examples here are going to be using with the x-axis and the y-axis as our line of reflection. So let's take a look at the first one here. So here we have a pre-image. I'm going to label it PI, that's my pre-image. And what I need to know is I want to reflect it. And it says I want to reflect it across the y-axis. So I'm reflecting it across the y-axis. And let me use a highlighter here. So I'm going to reflect it across this line right there. So every point here, W, Y, and X, when I flip it over to make the image, have to be the same distance away. So let's see what happens, okay, when I do this. So the first thing here is I'm going to label my points here. I have W, X, and Y. And the order pairs there are 2, 6, 7, 4, and 2, 2. Okay? So let's see what my image will look like W prime, X prime, Y prime. So I look at W. How far is W from the pink line, the line of reflection? This is my line of reflection. It is 1, 2. You can see that I've counted. It's 1, 2 spaces away. So W prime has to also be 2 spaces away. So that becomes 1, 2, and his mark is right there. W prime. And that ordered pair there is -2, 6. I look at Y. How far is Y from the line of reflection? Well, it's 1, 2. So its prime, or its opposite, has to also be 2 units. So it's 1, 2. And it's going to be right there. Y prime. So his units there is at -2, 2. The last one here is X. Well, how far is X from my pink line of reflection? Well, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It's 7 units away. So its opposite has to be 7 units away on the other side of the line of reflection. So let's just count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And I put my point right there. There it is. They are now exactly the same distance away, and I have a mirror image that has been reflected of my triangle there. And his ordered pair there is -7, 4. So these are now, and this is my image, so you can see that each point is the exact same distance from the line of reflection. Okay? This right here is also the exact distance as this one, both 8 units away from each other on this line of reflection. So now I have a perfect reflective line. Well, what type of pattern do I see here in my X values and my Y values if I flip something over the Y line? Well, let's look. My X values were all positive, and now on my image they became negative. So my X values are opposite. One was positive, and then they became negative. What happened to my Y values? Well, my Y values stayed the same. So I'm done with that one right there. So the big thing that you've got to be able to know is when you reflect these, that however how far the points are from that line of reflection, it's got to be the same thing on the other side. So this is 2 units away, that's 2 units away. Okay? So let's look at the second one. Second one is asking us to reflect it over the x-axis. So here's my line of reflection. It's the one in the pink. And I'm going to reflect this triangle, DFE, over the line of reflection. So I'm going to write down the point values here. That's what it's asking me here. This is my pre-image. Let's see what I get. So the ordered pairs there are 2, -2, 7, -7, and 2, -7. Well, let's reflect this over this line. So when I reflect this over this line, my image should be somewhere up in here in quadrant 1. So I'm reflecting it over the pink line. And remember, each one of these points, I got to find how far away they are so that I can properly map them up here so they are the same distance. So point D is right here. How far away is he from my line of reflection, the pink line? Well, he is 1, 2. So my D prime is going to be 1, 2 as well. And he's found right there. D prime. He is 2 units away from the pink line on the top, and he is 2 units away from the pink line on the bottom. What about F? Well, F here is 7 units away from the pink line, so he's also got to be 7 units away from the pink line up here. So it becomes F prime. I have my last point here, which is E. How far away is E from my line of reflection, the pink line? Well, it is also 7 units away. So it's got to be 7 units away right up here, and it fits in. And now I have a reflected triangle image of my pre-image. All these points are the same distance away in the image as they are in the pre-image from the line of reflection. So let's see what those points are, and we can write them in here. So my points here were 2, 2, 7, 7, and 2, 7. What type of pattern happened here? Well, when I've reflected across the x-axis, my x values stay the same. So my x values stayed the same. And my y values became opposite. There they are. Because now my y values were negatives in the image, pre-image, and now they're positives in the image. But the big thing you need to remember is when you flip these things over is that the points have to be the same distance in both figures from the line of reflection. D was 2 units away, D prime has to be 2 units away. F was 7 units away from the line of reflection, F prime has to be 7 units away. Same thing with E and E prime, both 7 units away, and now you have your reflective line. Okay, so let's look at another one here. So this one here is, I want to reflect this line PQR over the y-axis. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to reflect it over the y-axis. So here it is. I'm going to reflect it over that line right there, my y-axis. Okay? So let's reflect it over the y-axis. It goes all the way down. Okay? So the same thing I got to know is what happens. Well, how far is R from the line of reflection? So I can find R prime. R is 2 units away, so R prime also has to be 2 units away over on this side. So here we go. So it's 1, 2, so I count 2 more. 1, 2, there's R prime. P. Well, P is 7 units from the pink line. So P prime has to be 7 units from the pink line, or my line of reflection, on the opposite side to make it reflect. So there's P prime. Q is right up here. When I look at it, he's 5 units from my pink line. I can count them out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So he's got to be 5 units over here away from my line of reflection. And I can put my ordered pair there, right there, Q. Q prime. So now I have my image from my pre-image. Remember, this is my pre-image here. This is my image. And now I'm good to go. Okay? So there I have it. So each one of these points, P was 7 units from the line of reflection. P prime is also 7 units from the line of reflection. R is 2 units from the line of reflection. So R prime has to be 2 units from the line of reflection. Same thing with Q. 5 units. 5 units over here for Q prime. Now, they want to get a little trickier and say, take this triangle and let's flip it over the x-axis, which is going to be the one right here in the blue. Alright, so let's take a look at here. So I'm going to take this triangle now, and I'm going to flip it over this line of reflection, the blue line, and see what I get. So here we go. So R here is 2 units from this line of R prime is 2 units from that line of reflection. So the other point has to be 2 also down at the bottom because it flips over. So this is going to be called R, we'll call it double prime. Well, how far is P from this line of reflection? P is going to be 2 units, so it's also got to be 2 units away here. So it becomes P double prime. I can do this all day with these things. Just got to know how far the line of that point is from the line of reflection. Okay, let's reflect Q prime. I'm going to reflect it over the x-axis. So how far away is it? It's 7. So how far away should it be down at the bottom? It's got to be 7 also. I'm going to call that Q double prime. So each one of these now has been reflecting the same distance that it is from my original picture. This was 2 units from the line of reflection. This is now 2 units from the line of reflection. P is the same distance as P prime. Q double prime is 7 units from the line of reflection. So it was Q prime, 7 units from the line of reflection. And now we have successfully reflected that shape twice in this case. So the big thing you got to remember is that they got to be the same distance away from your line of reflection. All right. So let's take a look at some other ones here. That what if we're not going to use the axis, the x or y axis? What if they just tell me where it's going to be? Such as right here, x equals -5. Well, where is x equals -5? It's located right here. There's x equals -5 in the pink. So the line of reflection that I'm going to switch it over is this one right here. So there's your line of reflection. And now all I got to do is just be able to reflect them the same distance over that line. So let's start right here with C. C's right on that line. So guess what? C prime is also right on that line. So there's C. How far is B from the line of reflection? Well, it's 1, 2. So its opposite has to be 2 units over on the other side. 1, 2. B prime. How far is D from the line of reflection? It's only 1 unit. So it must also be 1 unit over on this side. That's D prime. And A, to reflect A, we got to know how far it is from the line of reflection. So we count 1, 2, 3. So it's 3 units, so it's got to be 3 units over here too. 1, 2, 3. There it is. It is now reflected. And there we go. So we have our pre-image here. We now have our copy image here. And it has been reflected perfectly for us. All right. Number 2 says, okay, well, what if we want to take this shape right here and we want to reflect it over y equals -4. Well, where is y equals -4? It's right here. There's -4 on the y line. So the line of reflection is this line right there. It goes straight across. And all I got to do is be able to find, well, how far away are these points from this line to reflect it on the opposite side. So I know I'm going to take this shape and reflect it. So it's going to be down here. So let's see here. L is 2 units from the line of reflection. So its copy, L prime, has to be 2 units also. M is 2 units away. 1, 2. So its M prime also has to be 2 units away. 1, 2. Across that line. Remember, we're making a mirror image. K is 4 units away. So K prime has to be 4 units away as well. And then N is 4 units away. So N prime should be 4 units also. There is your reflected line, your reflected box right there. So here's my pre-image, my PI. Here's my image, and there's my image, my copy. So each one of these points, K prime and K, are the same distance from this pink line. N and N prime are the same distance from that pink line. M prime and M are the same distance from that pink line. Same thing with L and L prime. All I got to do is follow what it says to do. Number 3 says, okay, what about the y-axis? I'm going to take this shape here, this trapezoid, and I'm going to reflect it across the y-axis. So here's your y-axis, your line of best fit. You need to draw in. There it is. So I just need to find out how far away are each one of these points from this pink line so I can flip it over to have it in this section right here. So S is 1 unit away, so S prime has to be 1 unit. R is 2 units away, so R is 2 units away over here. Excuse me. Q is 1, 2, 3, 4 units away from the line of reflection. Q prime has to also be 4 units away from the line of reflection. And the last one is P. P here is 5 units away from the line of reflection. So on the opposite side, it's got to be 5 units away also. So if I count over 5, it's right there. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And there I have my new reflected trapezoid. There's my image. There's my pre-image. I'm good to go now. That is now reflected. I have a reflected congruent picture right there. Okay, the last one here that I'm going to do with you, and then you guys get to do the rest. I'm going to reflect this one across x equals 3, reflecting this trapezoid here. So where is 3 on my x line? It's right there. So the line of reflection is this line that runs up and down. So how far away is C and all these other points? So I can flip it over. So it's going to be over here. It's going to be reflected. It's going to point the other way. Will this trapezoid be? So C here is 1, 2. So C prime has to be 1, 2. That's C prime. F here is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we're going to count 5 over here. So let's find its mirror. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And there's F prime. It's the same distance as F from my line of reflection. This is 5 units from the pink line. That's 5 units from the pink line. D. How far is D from the line of reflection? 1, 2, 3. So it's got to be 3 units on this side as well. 1, 2, 3. So your figure has to be the same distance, and it's going to look exactly the same, but it's just flipped over. And our last one here is E. So E is 5 units away. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it's got to be 5 units also on this side. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And there's my E prime. There you have it. And you can see that you've got a reflected image of both of these. This is your pre-image. It doesn't have the primes. This is my image here. And now it has been reflected. Each point is the same distance from this line of reflection. So in essence, when you do these homework here, you do this stuff on your practice, same thing up here, it tells you your line of reflection. I've already drawn them in for you, so you can kind of see what's working. X equals 1. So there it is. There's your line of reflection. Find out how far they are. This picture should be over here. The next one, y-axis. There's your y-axis. There's your line of reflection. It should be over here somewhere. It should be look the opposite way. Number 7, they give you a line of reflection right here. So you know when you reflect this line, it should this box, it should be right up here. Each point will be the same distance away. So you got to count. How far is E from the line of reflection? E prime is going to be the same there. That is the big thing of what you need to do. Number 9 is the same thing, and then give me the ordered pairs. After you reflect it, tell me my ordered pairs. You're reflecting it across the y-axis. So here's your y-axis right there. Okay. And then number 10, tell me what happens. Does the shape stay the same or does it change? Does the size change or stay the same? Does the way that it's facing change or stay the same? Does the orientation of your vertices stay the same or do they change? See what happens on those, okay? Then your last part of your homework are the back side. You're going to reflect them across the line of reflection that's been told and it's been given to you the exact same way. But then write out the points that have been that are your new points for your image. So that is your homework. When you finish with this, we'll check them all together. You'll have some IXLs which you can find on the board or on your My Moodle for you. Thank you very much.